Sorry, I just hit Sardo with a goof and a gaff
Damn.
right before we started recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Skeleton, the Crew, the podcast featuring Sardo, Lord of the Dance.
It's true. Yeah, it's that you can't tell right now, but I'm actually dancing as we record. And I'm
Very
doing a really
fast.
good job.
It's
I
fantastic.
I have no way of proving this, but it's true.
It's too Joku. And of course, me, I'm Stross. Welcome, everybody. We are, of course, your Skeleton Crew podcast hosts. A bit of a different episode today. And we're talking
Yeah, something a
about.
little funky fresh.
We're Frankie Fresh tonight. So, hi, everyone. We are, of course, talking about underappreciated characters that we really like and maybe why they're underappreciated and whether or not we agree with this sentiment.
Yeah, we've got some strong opinions, and we were kind of getting into this a little, so let's get into it.
Yeah. So I think first we should establish what we mean underappreciated, because I feel like unpopular and underappreciated are two very separate things.
Yes.
Because to me, like like an unpopular character that you like, for example, and I'm using you because you love your unpopular characters,
Oh, I do.
is Hisahide from Samurai Warriors 4.
Yes.
Like, that is a very niche amount of people who like that character.
He is not very well liked, and yeah,
And that is not a statement.
understandable.
Yeah,
It's understandable.
It's understandable. And it's definitely a case of that's a character that not a lot of people love.
And I think I want to say the distinction between the unpopular character and the underappreciated character, it's mostly down to opinion. Yes. And
Yeah.
and we're putting that on the table right now. But this whole piece is a fucking opinion piece.
It is an
I mean,
opinion piece,
obviously.
but I do think there's some level of metric that you can use.
Yeah, but like an unpopular character is one where either for reasons of screen time or reasons of kind of just who they are within the story, it kind of makes sense why they don't get a ton of fans.
Yeah,
Like
Hisahide
Hisahide
is a good
a
example.
bastard of the highest order.
Well, like, for example, I would say Chen Gong is underappreciated because there is, like, a group of people who like that character outside of just, like, you and three other people. Like, the way I would put it is an unpopular character is a character who constantly ranks really low on the list. Whereas, like, an underappreciated character is a character that's, like, in the middle of popularity. If that makes sense.
Yes.
And there is a difference between those two.
Yeah.
Like, and I just think the best way to really to describe it is when you were talking about that character, would like, what is, like, the difference between underappreciated and unpopular is that an underappreciated character has a small fan base, whereas an unpopular character is, like, very niche.
Yes.
Like, how basically, when does the word niche come in?
Yeah. It's like how out there is it for this character to have like devoted fans?
Another way to look at it, and I think it's also works very well, even though it's a bit of an odd way to do it, is if you were to go onto an image hosting site for that character, what is the likelihood of them having a certain amount of fan art of them?
Right.
Like, if I was to go onto one of the many, many Borus out there, which you know what that means.
Yes, I do.
It's some people who listen to this goes like, yes, I know what you mean, yes. And for someone like, say, my mother would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And to
But
that I say, don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. Be happy. But it's like, if I was to go onto like an image hosting site or like a fanfic site, how many hits would I get becomes a legitimate question. And I think that's a good metric.
Yes.
Uh, So, Sardo, since we have sort of a metric, is there any other ways you wanted to find this before we start talking about them proper?
Um, I would say it, I would factor in things like, because character morality, we all have the memes of like loving the awful asshole bastard character. Sure, 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 that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like in terms of kind of the underappreciated character is often one that actually didn't really do as much bad shit as people claim they did. Is that a fair thing to say?
I
That
think
maybe
that's
kind of gets a little unfair hatred for stuff that they might not be as harshly judged by if they were a more popular character.
maybe I would say more so like it really the key here to me is less about like fandom reaction
Okay.
as much as because like I think there's definitely something to be talked about with that regard, and we can go into it a little bit later because I do think you have an interesting thing going on in this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference between like if you were to post a picture of that character,
Mm-hmm.
like how many likes you would get,
Yes.
and I feel like that's the big difference.
I think that does make sense.
Because, like, you as an artist, I think would be, like, really understanding of that sort of phenomenon of, like, if you posted this character, you know you're going to get, like, a lot of people who are going to, like, engage with it.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you posted this other character, which you know is going to get a lot more.
Yes, it's like, do I want to draw this because I like this character more, or because, honestly, let's be real, I would like a little more engagement with this thing I'm putting
Yeah.
effort into.
Well, like, a great example of this, since you're still on your Baldur's Gate 3 kick / hyperfixation, the difference between posting Asterion versus Will.
Yes.
Where it's like, you're gonna get a lot of engagement for both, but you know that Asterion's gonna get a lot more engagement if you posted it in, like, a place where people see it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a statement
Like, if I...
Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
If I post it to my Twitter,
Mhm.
what are more people going to pass around?
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that Will's unpopular. He's not.
Mhm.
He's underappreciated, which is different.
Yes.
Because unpopular would be someone like...
Wolbrin Bongle.
I think that's outright loathing. I think that's different. That might be different. But yeah, like, I think that's the definition that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Because anyone can be popular. Anyone could be unpopular. But being underappreciated, you have to be in the middle.
Yeah.
You have to be a character of moderate popularity. Which is very specific.
Like, some people like you well enough, but maybe, yeah.
And that is what we're discussing, is the characters who are in the middle. Because we have our unpopular phase, we all do.
Mm-hmm.
Characters no one else cares about, for whatever reason.
Yes.
We're talking about the characters that no one gives a shit about. A different time.
Yes.
We're talking about the characters who, quite a few people like, but, don't get the rub that they might deserve. So, Sardo, who's the first one you want to ask for this?
Let's dive right into Baldur's Gate 3 because it's fresh on the mind.
Yeah.
And I've got some thoughts. So I want to talk about Will Ravengard.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to choose my words very carefully because I have a lot of feelings on the fandom. And how stupid they can be sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of people who crave certain things in their character romances because this is often a very romance forward fandom in the ways that, anything with character romances as an option is, and a lot of the shit people want from their favorite characters is stuff they can get from Will. Will is a knight in shining armor. He is a prince on a white horse. He is all of that stuff. He is funny and charming and a genuinely really likable character. Like, you know me, I go for the horrible bastards 9 times out of 10. Will is the goodest warlock you've ever met. He is a genuinely nice dude, and I love him. He is so genuinely likable and fun, and such a good example of, like, an interesting, good aligned character that Will is underappreciated. He does not get enough love. He doesn't get enough love from the source material, and that's what I feel very strongly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Stross? Thoughts?
I would say, I think Will definitely is a good definition of it. A character who is not unliked, has plenty of fans.
Yeah, lots of people love Will.
Yeah, lots of people love Will. But Will would not win the character popularity poll if you polled the entire fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, that's not an insult to Will or his writing. It's just, he is not that popular. For one reason or another, and we could go into it, but that's we're gonna probably save that part for the end.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave that kind of unspoken for now because I think I've discussed this before in previous episodes, but
we'll touch back at
Will gets a lot of heat for really unfair reasons, I'll say. That's it. Yeah. But yeah, and nothing at all against Astarion. I really like him. I think he's really fun. I'm meeting Neil Newbon this year and at one of the conventions, and I'm super excited about it. I like the guy. I just, yeah, it's very frustrating.
But yeah, that's a good example of a character who is liked, not super liked, but liked. People like them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go on one of our old horses for a second, and let's talk about my beloved Kai for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Textbook example of has her fans.
Samurai warriors, yes.
Yeah, because once again, her thoughts turn to samurai. Eternally.
Yes.
Internal and eternal. Forevermore. Because that's a good example of what I mean by like not unpopular, just underappreciated, not really super popular, middle of the road. And the best part is because this is a Japanese property, we actually have like character polls to really like point to like, yeah, see, look here. One thing Japan does a good job at is that people do character polls and therefore you know how popular everyone is. At least in Japan.
It's nice to know where they stand.
It's nice to know that like I feel like this character could be more popular. Oh, they're middle of the road? Yeah, I was right. Looks at me. Correct opinion haver. I was assessing this correctly.
But kind of what's your feelings on Kai and why she's,
Well, if I
why
was
she deserves a little more.
I think it's just because and it's mostly due to the fact that because the biggest problem with like Koei Warrior stuff is that the most popular characters in that are the dudes. So she's already fighting an uphill battle.
That she is.
Combined with the fact that like the game itself doesn't really give her a lot to work with half the time. And that's not her fault. It's a large cast. You only get so much time for everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like
time in the sun is pretty brief.
Yeah, it's you can't focus on one group for too long before people get kind of annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that I think I think her lack of popularity is more to do with being attached to a fan base that vastly prefers the male characters over the female ones.
Those goddamn Fujoshi.
I mean, in this case, yes.
I'm just kidding. I love Fujoshi. They're usually.
I do too. I have nothing against Fujoshi personally.
I'm absolutely kidding. But yes.
I'm saying this in a sense that, like, it's not that the Fujoshi are bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they have their taste, and when they compromise a large portion of the fan base you're in, and and your character is a lady, you're fighting an uphill battle that you're not going to win, no matter what you do. And also, I think like her personality. I think the problem is she's desperate. And not a lot. And I do find that characters who are intentionally designed to be very desperate have a bad tendency not to be very well loved.
It's like, God forbid they yearn.
Well, no, but specifically, it's not just yearn. Because, like, you could build a whole character relationship off of yearning. And people will love that shit. Like, since you've been watching Free Reign, you now know what I mean when we say Himmel, textbook. Actually, no, not textbook. That's mean. That's an understatement. This man is the king of yearning.
Champion yearner.
The hero of yearners everywhere. Himmel the hero. Hero of yearning.
He yearns.
He yearns so hard that he out yearns the eternal elf who yearns super duper hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is a level of yearning that we, like, whether or not it's romantic or not is a different question, but the point is, it's some high-end yearning.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a difference between yearning and, like, that whole relationship. People like that shit. But it's, like, in fairness, that's part of, like, what makes the character fun. And it's, like, even then, this is an equal opportunity level yearning, so people like it both ways. But, like, the difference between yearning and desperate is the same thing. Like, Manuela Fire Emblem is a great example of this. Miss Casagrande is incredibly... Well, she's very well liked by the lesbians. I'm not sure if you, how familiar you are with Three Houses fandom. But
I know a little bit, through osmosis. I know the lesbians love her, and I mean, as a non-lesbian, I can understand why.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. I love her too, for a lot of the same reasons. I remember I had a friend of mine who was who does not like her, which is fine. This is not a judgment call on him. But it was just so funny when he was like, I don't get, it's like, I was like, you clearly don't know anybody. I was just like, I don't get it. I'm like, exactly. Because you don't know a lot of lesbians, clearly. Because all the lesbians I know love this woman to death.
Like, talk to some lesbians, then maybe you'll get it and calm down.
Yeah, once you know how lesbians react to women and the women that they like, this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just some people just need to understand that, like, when we mean underappreciated, we mean characters who are like, they don't appeal, and like, I find that desperation, like, people who are very desperate for a romantic encounter have a tendency to not
love very hard.
I think the reason why people don't like those characters is that it reminds them too much of themselves at times.
Yes.
And not an insult, but it's like, it's sometimes hard to look into a mirror when it's like, oh, right, this is what I sometimes sound like. Oh, no. Any other ones you want to go with right now?
I think as long as we're lingering within samurai warriors.
Here we go.
Masanori Fukushima.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my god.
I love him. I love my dumb son.
My sweet, beautiful boy. Okay.
Our large, stupid son.
I am clapping my hands together rapidly because I have feelings about this, and I'm gonna try to find a way to like word this diplomatically.
Go for it.
I like Mitsunari Yoshida as a character. I really like Mitsunari as a character, actually. You might not think it to hear me talk about him in relation to kind of Samurai Warriors as a fandom, and I like Mitsunari. I do not like what the fandom has done to Mitsunari in terms of like it's the whole thing of going back to Astarion and everything. We're like, I really like this character, but I don't like the thing that like mass fan frenzy drums them up into. And I don't like the way that characters get shafted. So the precious popular baby boy can get more time in the limelight that he already has plenty of. Like, oh my fucking god. and Masanori is a big part of that because oh my god, he's so sweet and goofy and just he is the archetype of the rough, foul-mouthed delinquent who like saves kittens. People love that shit. And, they just don't like it as much with Masanori because he's not a pretty boy.
I think the problem is, and I think Masanori's case, whereas like Kai, who is objectively speaking an attractive young lady. I think in the case of Masanori, he's not unattractive.
Yeah.
It's just that he's not conventionally attractive. He looks
he's distinctive.
Yeah, he's got a chin on him. And you and I are like, he's cute. Look at their son.
He's sweet and lovely and darling.
I think what really sells the fact that he's actually attractive though is if you see the art with his hair down, and you go like, oh, you're nerfing yourself.
Yes. But he's got to have the pompadour. It's the powerful look. He's
yeah, no, absolutely. It's just like, you're nerfing yourself, laddie. World could not handle you if you looked like this the entire time.
Listen, he's
he's
got a.
also like, let's be 100% and clear. He's very masculine, which doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
Because you and I both know that a lot of the Fujo, like, they're pretty boys, which, that's their taste. They're allowed to
They
have it.
prefer a Bishonen, which is fine.
But it's just also like, give their boys some love, please.
That's like, have a little more variety.
It's the spice of life. It's a spice of life, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it tastes like.
Oh.
But it's definitely not in my spice cabinet.
Like, Masanori does not get enough love. And I can assure you, if he were slightly more in the ballpark of being a Bishonen type of character, people would be calling him a himbo until the cows came home and talking about what a beautiful man he is.
If he was a little less goofy and a little more just like conventionally attractive, I think, like, I'm not sure if he'd be top 10, but I think he would make, like, I think he'd make near the top.
Oh, yeah.
Much easier.
No question.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, we are talking about a character whose popularity would skyrocket, because I forget where he placed last. I'm gonna look at the poll real quick. Let me see here. I'm going with the most. Let's see here. No, that is the vote in a poll. That's not helpful. Let's go with this one then. This one was for Warriors Orochi 3. Which, let me tell you something. Sometimes the results are very funny. Like, he was not in the top 10. I'm not saying he'd be top 10, but I think he'd make the top 20.
Yes. Without question.
Which leads to sort of the follow-up question to you, Sardo. Is there anyone else you want to...
I think that's about it for Samurai Warriors for me.
Oh, yeah.
We covered Hisahide already. Okay, yeah, you know what? We're gonna talk about my other special little guy that you discussed briefly, I believe, as an example.
I brought this on myself. I have no one to blame here but myself.
I want to talk about Chengong.
Just a little bit. I love how I knew exactly who you meant the moment you said it. You're like, I brought this. I spoke this one into existence.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not even mad.
You absolutely did. I'll keep it brief for the sake of your time and mine.
Of everyone's time.
Mostly yours, because I could do this forever.
I know. Do I know?
Yeah, you know. You love me for it. Yeah. Chengong is so deeply underappreciated. And again, let me tell you, the way people's opinions would change if everything about him was the same, except he was 20 years younger and 5 inches taller. I'm not wrong.
I'm not denying that. It's just really funny way that you
I'm
described
correct.
it. It's just like, God, this is a short king statement here.
He. The only reason Chen Gong is not absurdly popular, and you couldn't swing a dead cat without hitting, art of him and Lu Bu playing hide the salami with each other. You can still find plenty of it. Believe me, I've seen most of it. But way more.
I've drawn some of
Um,
it even.
I've never.
I don't think you
I
actually
haven't,
have.
but I could.
I don't think
I haven't.
I don't think you have.
I I haven't, but I could, and that's all that matters is the potential. Um, where was I going? Anyway, point is, Koei chose to make Chen Gong a fruity little annoying man in his 40s. And they were so correct in doing so because he's so good if you don't have people in your ear telling you how annoying he is and how much they hate him. Um I'm mad. I'll always be mad.
You're always angry.
He's good. He's really good. He's an interesting character. Historically, Chen Gong as a person is a figure who might not have been actually as moral or upright or even as clever as he gets hyped up to be, but typically it's like Lu Bu should have listened to Chen Gong. He could have gone so much farther if he did. And that's probably true because really anybody with two brain cells to rub together giving Lu Bu advice would have helped him if he just listened to them.
I mean, I will say, I do agree with you that he's underappreciated, but I do wonder how underappreciated he actually is because I'm just looking at the most recent popularity poll that I could
I think you're
find.
fucking negging me.
No, it's just that I mean, the thing is, the problem is, and you're going to agree with me that this is kind of a hard list to really make work because it goes by faction.
Mm-hmm.
So, on one hand, Chen Gun in the other faction does place sixth, which is pretty good.
That doesn't count.
It doesn't, but it's like, how does he place overall is like a legitimate question. Because, like, in his defense, he only got 808 votes. But on the other hand, the top four are Lu Bu, his daughter, his girlfriend, and Zhu Rong. And, like, that's hard to beat out.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he could beat out Zhao Xi, though. But then again, Zhao Xi has silly hair. And if this was a battle between who has the sillier mustache, he's not winning that battle. Because his mustache is pretty normal.
You are not inspiring belief in me.
I think basically, no, I'm joking. I think he is potentially more popular than that. This character popularity poll is not helpful because, like, it's within faction, and let's be real, the other faction for Dynasty Warriors is a whole bunch of mishmash of characters.
I'm at this from a bit of a different perspective because I'm going at it from the viewpoint of I have had to Google Translate fanfic in different languages so I could have a crumb of Chen Gong content.
That is fair. Then again, I'm not really sure how much Dynasty Warriors fanfic you're going to get in English.
There's already not a whole lot, but there's even less.
In fairness, it's I think we both agree on one thing. I'm pretty sure that this isn't a series that's very popular in English. And it's not. I do wonder, though, this does lead to an interesting question for me, for you, Sardo, and I want you to answer this when it comes to Chen Gong, who I do think counts, by the way. I want to make that abundantly clear. I don't think...
You used him as an example. You'd fucking better think he counts.
Do you think he's more popular in the English-speaking side of the admittedly niche fan base that it is? Or do you think he's more popular in Japan? Because I would argue...
He's way more popular in Japan.
Fair enough, because I would argue that there is, and mind you, I think part of the problem with talking about any Koei Warriors anything is there's the caveat of this whole series is underappreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking like at a weirdly niche level. It's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we think this character deserves more love, and we're like, yes, you're right, I agree. But also, like, the series could use some more love, hey?
Yeah, but no, he is definitely more popular in Japan. I know.
You would know.
That's
why
done
I
my homework
asked you.
on this.
That's why I asked you. I wouldn't have
Yes.
asked you the question. And to get this axe unless I knew you had it.
Put that axe down.
No, it's my beloved. It belongs.
Oh,
Speaking of underappreciated, hi, this is Dion Wei. We're inserting him here for five seconds. Love this
Yes.
bald man.
Yeah. I love Dion Wei. And more people should love Dion Wei.
I agree. I mean, I understand why he's unpopular. Number one, he's not a conventionally attractive man. That's part of it.
He's a big, burly, bald, beautiful man.
But also, he's not in the story for very long, so that's also part of the problem. That's a different issue, though. That's not his fault. It's not his fault that the real Dion Wade died when he did. That's a different problem. But yeah, it's weird when you get to like niche series when you talk about underappreciated characters, because like the difference between like the popularity of say Will and Chen Gong is night and day.
I want to see them interact.
Oh god,
I bet they'd be friends.
I do not think so.
I think they would.
I think they would be friends at first because Will's a nice person.
I think Will could fix him. Not in like a romantic way, just like in a general human being way.
I would love to see him at least try. I'm not sure what the actual result would be, but I would love to see him try.
I think he could do it.
I think so too, but that's like it's almost like the most platonic version of My Fair Lady you can get. It's like, this is My Fair Lady, but between two dudes and platonic instead of gay. Which is weirdly very specific.
What if My Fair Lady was just bros and one bro makes the other bro a little better?
I don't know, man.
Listen, you don't know him like I do.
Yeah.
You don't know my husband the way I do, the way I have projected intensely onto him.
That part's definitely true. But yeah, I think like Chen Gong definitely works. It's tricky with some things because like they're popular in the sense that this is the most popular female character, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're that popular. Like, who do you think is the most popular female character in Dynasty Warriors, now that I think about it? Is it... trying to think here. Like, is it... is it Yuanji? It might be Yuanji.
It's probably you, Angie.
I mean, she's the only one who won a faction one, but, like, not by a lot. She beat out Suma Yi by only, like, 300 plus votes.
You know, is Yuanji popular, or is she just on a lot of merch?
Okay, so we're getting into a very interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a discussion famous in the wrestling circles when talking about John Cena back in the day. When he was on, like, he was the biggest merch seller. But a lot of people pointed out that, yeah, he sold a lot of merch, but he also had the most merch in general. So, like, of course he sold a lot of merch. they put you on everything.
Yeah.
So you are classified as that merch because, like, a great example of this would be merch-wise, just to be clear, was that a lot of people were pointing out that when you made merch for other people, it sold pretty well, but you only would, like, everyone talks about merch sales, but I always think back to, like, when Alexa Bliss won the title for the first time, all the way back in 2016, to give you an idea how far back ago this discussion went. People were pointing out she had no merch for like 2 months. So it's like, you could argue she was one of the worst merch sellers in the women's division. But then everybody could easily also point out that she had no merch to sell in the first place.
That's true.
So that's sort of where like that's a chicken egg situation, where it's like, are they popular because of merch, or are they popular because of merch, or do they get merch because popular? I don't know. But even then, would you consider Wang Yuanji one of the top 5 most popular characters if this was an open vote of every single character?
I mean,
because I wouldn't.
Probably not.
No, because I would argue Xiao Yun is way more popular. Guan Yu is way more popular. Lu Bu is more popular than anybody. If we're being realistic.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's Lu Bu. He's kind of like quintessential Dynasty Warriors.
He is Dynasty Warrior. He's the Dynasty Warrior.
Yeah. He's a large, angry baby man.
This dude had 6 dads and he killed all of them.
I don't know if it's 6, but he definitely killed all of his dads.
I don't. It's funnier if I say it's 6.
No, clearly it's 9. Just
Nice.
The number just keeps going.
He had 69 dads and he killed all of them.
He had 169 dads and he murdered every single last one of them personally.
Awesome.
Just like every time we talk about it, it's just the number just grows by a certain amount. But yeah, I would say, like, okay, so Sardo, let's ask I want to ask you a very interesting question about underappreciated characters.
Okay.
And that is because we it's hard to, like, when we're ranking this stuff, it's very hard because there's a bunch of ways to look for it.
Yes.
Because there's like, okay, they're popular, but like who they're popular with can really throw things off, I think.
Yes. Because,
like, one of the things we were talking about earlier, because you were streaming tonight, you and I was talking about how, like, one of the funniest moments in Baldur's Gate 3 fan base was a lot of the Astarion fans realizing that actually they're the niche group in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Because, you know, a lot of fandom is powered by people online.
It is.
And not everyone who's online is in those same spaces, so their perception is very different from the actuality.
Yeah. Like, because, you know, if you're constantly surrounded by people who all like the same character you do, of course you're going to think they're more popular than they actually are.
Yeah. So I'm wondering here for a minute, and this is just a general idea. Do you think a character, not like Chen Gong or anything like that, but like, do you think when we talk about character popularity in general, that we're kind of skewed?
Oh, always. Yeah.
Fair. Okay.
I mean, I think that's, and I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, that there's always going to be a bit of a bias there when you talk about a character you believe is underrated. Because, I mean, there's no real honest-to-God metric for that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, especially because the metrics we do have are inherently flawed.
Because not everybody answers polls. For every person who does answer it, you've got 20 more people who are never gonna see that shit. So,
Oh yeah. Well, like a great example of this for me was for me it's just sort of like Japan's usually a bit better with the character poll stuff because like they for some reason have they will have multiple polls usually in different magazines. It's a
yes.
thing over there, so it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say for me, and a question for you, Sardo,
Okay.
is would you say are female characters or male characters more on average popular? Or is it very dependent?
I mean, for one thing, it depends.
Mm.
Because, I mean, and it really depends on what your metrics for popularity are. Because I think by and large, you're maybe going to see more merch of female characters. They're more likely to be, put on stuff and sold on stuff. But I mean, are we counting popularity in terms of like amount of fan fiction produced or fan art produced or how many people respond to a poll or just how many people would say so and so is my favorite character? You've got a lot to account for there. That really depends on, I don't know. I mean, when a character reaches, I guess, the I've had enough of this guy kind of threshold. Um do you count them as no longer underappreciated or as popular? I mean, I don't know. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah, I
was just
think.
thinking about it because it's just sort of like I always think about how sometimes a character is way more popular in other parts of the world, like Tingle.
Yeah.
Like Tingle in The Legend of Zelda is very popular in Japan, where he got his own game even, but Americans fucking hate the guy
Yeah.
because he's weird and strange and kind of
And
annoying.
because cultural stuff is always going to be different. Like Germans love David Hasselhoff.
I don't know. I think everyone loves David Hasselhoff.
You know what I mean.
Oh, I know, but he was in the SpongeBob movie, and that's very important.
It is very important, but you get what I'm getting at.
I rode the David Hasselhoff. Only movie where that where no one where people who know that's not sexual.
But I mean, you get what I mean though when
Oh yeah,
it's
no,
like
I do.
there's a lot of factors and it's just like, it's going to be different here than it is in Japan or in Europe or elsewhere.
Yeah, I think just a big part of it when we talk about underappreciated characters in the macro sense of the word
Yeah.
is that we're always going to be in this situation is that there is always going to be this weird sense of it kind of sort of maybe
Yeah, like I guess.
because it's like how do you judge can be very strange because like if you go to like fanfic circles male characters are extremely popular
Yes.
because most of the people writing it are women who are writing about men. But if you go onto like an
Precisely.
image hosting site, it could be the reverse
Yes.
or not. It really depends on the situation, obviously.
Hmm.
But it's the fact that it can be.
And then you get into stuff that it's like, okay, what what counts as character popularity versus, shallow commercialization of a character? What, you know, is there a more legitimate way to enjoy and appreciate a character?
Well, yeah, it's
And
because is this character popular? Is this character just very marketable? Becomes a thing.
yes.
Not always, but like you could probably point to a character where you're like, oh, this character's really popular, but like everyone knows that, so they're on every bit of merch that they can stick them on.
Mm-hmm.
You want to pick one that counts for that? Go for it.
The fucking what's her face? The little broad with uh the pigtails and the big boobs who had like the ribbon or whatever. Um from like the anime. I never even watched it, but I saw her everywhere for a while. She had like the ribbon under her boobs and like the
Oh
little white
yeah,
dress.
Hestia, I think.
Hestia.
Yeah,
Hestia. Yeah.
yeah, I
That's the
get.
bit.
And that also leads to
Yeah.
another point. Like that was very popular with like a very specific segment of people, but that we're not really attached to, because we have taste.
It's like, yeah, we don't claim them.
Of course, then there's some characters where I remember someone I knew. I don't talk to anymore because they kind of went off the deep end
Mm-hmm.
a while ago. They went like nuts, but they said like when it was that one show with the lady, the which one was it? It was the great haired big titty girl with the snaggletooth. You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like I'm pretty. It's like this is the first time I ever felt like someone was trying to astroturf a design into popularity.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I felt that one.
Yep.
Felt that deep inside my
Yeah.
soul.
And yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like, oh, stop trying to make this happen.
Well, like that also leads to another thing where it's just like how some things are popular, like in general, it like flash in the pan style.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I can think of like several things from our lifetime that was like really popular for like a good solid like 3 to 4 years and then dropped off the face of the planet after a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Like you will remember this. Remember how like big of a deal like Haruhi Suzumiya was?
Yep.
And
I
and it's just gone.
yeah.
Like everything about her is gone. Like she's a relic of a bygone age.
Nobody knows Haruhi anymore.
I mean, no, every so often someone posts like the color palette to like scare you.
Yeah.
And like this was almost 20 it was almost 20 years ago. Oh. I just did it to myself. But like that was legit popular. You know?
Yeah, that was big.
That was big for the time. So I don't want to like state when we're talking about our underappreciated faves. We're not about like it's all relative, but I think it's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the nature of popularity, it's like sure, in certain circles this character is extremely whatever in popularity, but in some circles they can be absurdly popular.
Yes.
Like I do think a good gauge for popularity when now that I'm thinking about it
Mm-hmm.
is do they escape their like circles?
Yes.
Because once again we're just thinking about like what even makes a character popular in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
because it helps solve the rest of this equation.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about a character like Chung Li's a great example. Very popular character. Has escaped the realms of just the characters as we see them in other things.
Yeah, everybody knows Chun-Li.
Yeah. Like, no one is gonna mistake who Mario is.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. But someone might mistake who, say, Daisy is.
Yes.
Always a good test is, does it pass the mom test?
Oh, that's good, yeah.
The problem is most of our stuff doesn't pass the mom test, but it's the concept of it. Like if this were, here's the best way to put it: if this were a big thing, would this character pass the mom test?
Yes.
Like if Baldur's Gate 3 was, something that the average person, our collective mothers age would recognize, if
Is that one of your Astarians, sweetie pie?
Oh, who's that? I don't recognize them. It's also tricky because it also changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I would argue that Yuffie for Final Fantasy VII used to be very underappreciated to almost unpopular.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been almost 30 years and shit's changed.
Yeah.
It's been 27 years. Everyone kind of acknowledges that hey, this game is different now.
Like the culture has changed.
Yeah. And I think it's just it's tough because sometimes it's easy to decide who those underappreciated characters are. And sometimes it's actually kind of hard.
I guess, to bring this to a conclusion, sort of.
Yeah.
It's all opinions at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But these are our opinions.
And our opinion is you should appreciate the ever beloved and ever fantastic Kai.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of desperate women. And don't be afraid of disgusting men.
Very true. And also, don't be afraid of good men either. I swear, Patch 7 better be so good for Will's romance. Larian, please. Please, Larian.
Please, Larian.
I would really like more for Will. That would be so nice. If you could do that, just for me. Thank you.
Just at least for Sardo. Do it for Sardo.
Do it for me.
But yeah, I think this is a good place to end this part of the discussion.
Yes.
But I think we have to ask a question to you, Sardo. It's a very important question.
Oh?
How have you been watching, playing, / reading?
Oh, what have I been consuming media-wise? I hate that word, but you know what I mean.
What have you been eating?
What have I been eating? What's for dinner?
What's the dinner?
Well, according to those commercials, it's beef.
Beef.
We do love beef.
Beef. It all comes back to beef. Yeah.
Beef.
Woo. Oh, beef.
I have not been watching a whole lot. I picked up a pretty interesting book. I don't know if you ever heard of, it was written by this guy named Dathan Auerbach. The original book was Pen Pal, and it started out as I believe a creepypasta, like one of the really long form ones, back when that was super big a thing. But it was one of those that was really good and ended up getting published into an actual legit book that had some commercial success. But he wrote a new book, and it's called Bad Man, and it's about this kid who one of his friends is kidnapped, disappears, something when they're both young, and it's still left him kind of fucked up to this day, and he's basically returned to the hometown where his friend disappeared from decades later, and he's working and he's taking care of his aging mom and kind of trying to unravel what happened to his friend. And I'm not very far into it, but it's interesting so far. And yeah, not bad.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What about you?
I haven't been doing much. I'm still kind of playing a lot of the same stuff, going slowly through everything. Just because I've been doing all the other stuff. Back to writing a little bit now that my work schedule has lightened up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not a whole lot going on over here. A bit farther in Rise of the Ronin, where I got to yell at an older gentleman for making choices, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a good time to wrap up our episode. Sardo, question for you.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find you?
People can find me at a couple of places. I'm on Twitter most actively at Autopsy Garlands. That's my main account. You can also find me at Marquis Belial, which is linked in my bio. And that's my art account. I post finished work there. And I posted some new stuff on my main account tonight. I've got that going. You can also commission me if you want. I've got slots open. And, what else? You can find me at Blue Sky under Uncle Death with a K, and also on Twitch under Uncle Death, same spelling. I stream Monday nights usually.
Yeah,
so,
and this is going to be up on Monday, so it'd be tonight.
Yes, tonight. But yeah.
I am found at all my Stross across the board, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Twitch, where I stream Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 8:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're playing Octopath 2 still. It's been very fun.
Good stuff.
We've been having a good time.
We love Partuccio. He's the man.
Yeah. Well, folks, I think that's an episode. If you want to support us on Patreon, we're at Skeleton Crew Pro for $2 a month. You can get extras. We haven't posted in a while because we haven't had anything to post as of late, but it'll come back soon.
Hopefully soon.
Probably the next episode.
Yes.
We've already decided what the next episode is.
Yes.
So that look out for that. That might be there.
Yes.
So, folks, you have a good evening, day, or whatever you are, at whatever time you are. We will see you laters.
Yeah, everybody.